It's a wet night, the highway narrowing into cones, and the torch beam finds your windscreen. You've done nothing. Hands at 10 and 2 anyway. Window down, license out through the gap. That small, polite handover, everyone performs without thinking. He takes it, glances down, doesn't look up, then friendly as a neighbour. So, where are you headed tonight? That's not small talk. That's the first question of 6, and not one of them is on the form he's holding. Before the 17th of December 1982, police in this state could only pull you over for the way you were driving. That changed overnight, and what replaced it needs no reason at all, which means tonight, the only thing that can escalate this stop is your own mouth. Nearly everyone answers all 6. Friendly, honest, helpful. And they learn what it cost them in a courtroom many months later. You're still running it back. What did I do? Nothing. And that's not the comfort it sounds like. It's the reason tonight is dangerous. Random breath testing became law in New South Wales on the 17th of December 1982. After that date, anyone, anywhere, for nothing. The government's own account of what came before is simple. Police could stop a motorist only because of the way they were driving. Now, anyone, anywhere, for nothing. The power sits in Schedule 3 of the Road Transport Act 2013, and the trigger is almost embarrassingly small. The officer needs reasonable cause to believe you're driving. You're behind the wheel. That's it. That's the whole threshold. So follow what that means. He doesn't need grounds to be at your window, and he doesn't need grounds to test you. But everything past that, all of that needs grounds he doesn't have yet. A search of your car, a charge, a night that ends somewhere you didn't plan, all of that needs grounds he doesn't have yet. He can't get them off your Rago. He can't get them off the license in his hand. There's only one place left to get them from. Which is why the next thing out of his mouth isn't a demand. It's a question. Your license is still in his fingers. Here's the ladder you're standing at the bottom of. You answer to be helpful. The answer gives him something to check. The check gives him a reason to look in the car. And what you said through a wet window becomes the account a magistrate reads back to you next autumn. 4 rungs. So here's the promise. 6 questions, 1 sentence. A sentence that gives him every single thing the law says he's owed, and not one word past it. And I have to warn you about something now, because this is the exact place American videos will get an Australian convicted. One of these 6 is not optional. Refuse it, and you've committed an offence punished as hard as the worst drink driving charge on the books. I'll tell you which one and what it costs, down to the number. Plain English, Australian law, checked against the statutes and the judgments. Every section, number, in the description. NSW is the spine, and I'll flag Victoria and Queensland. And understand, he's not a villain. Most officers are professional and well trained. That's precisely why these questions work. He didn't invent them. He was taught them. But before the 6, the 4 things you cannot refuse. Start with the musts, because everything else depends on knowing where the wall is. 4 of them. 1. You must stop. Failing to stop for a breath testing signal is its own offence, up to $1,100. 2. You must produce your licence and give your name and home address. Section 175 of the Road Transport Act 2013. Not negotiable, not clever to argue. 3. You must nominate the driver. If they serve a demand on you, you must nominate the driver. Section 177. A signed statement saying who was behind the wheel. Maximum penalty in court, $2,200. The on-the-spot notice alone is $899. 4. You must take the test, breath and saliva. That's the one I warned you about, and we'll come back to it properly. Cross the borders and the architecture holds. Queensland runs through Section 80. Victoria's in the Road Safety Act 1986. And no, there are no magic words. Nobody's travelling rather than driving. Nobody's a free man on the land. No card in your wallet makes Schedule 3 stop applying. That isn't law. It's a second charge. So here's question 1. So where are you headed tonight? And then 30 seconds later, and where have you come from? These two are twins, and they are never asked separately. The first one builds a timeline. The second one tests it. Any gap between them, a distance that doesn't fit the clock on the dash, a route that makes no sense for the destination, is a discrepancy. And discrepancies are the raw material that reasonable suspicion gets built out of. Say you're coming from a pub, a dinner, a mate's 40th. The temperature of this stop changes before you've finished the sentence, and it doesn't matter that you drank lemonade all night. You've handed over a reason to look harder at you. The question is compellable. Producing your license is required by Section 175. Your itinerary isn't. And under Section 89 of the Evidence Act 1995, no unfavourable inference can be drawn for not answering. Silence is safe. A lie is not. The High Court settled that principle in Petty and Maiden back in 1991. The wrong move is the full explanation. Every extra sentence is one more fact that can fail to line up with something. But be careful with the distinction. Misleading an officer can put you into hinder police territory under Section 546C of the Crimes Act 1900. Say nothing. Never invent. And question 3 has been ending people's nights since long before either of us was born. Do you know why I've pulled you over tonight? He knows. That question was never for your benefit. It's an invitation to confess to something he might not have decided to charge you with yet, or something he never saw at all. In a lot of stops, the officer is still choosing between a warning, a ticket, and nothing. And he's letting you make the choice for him. Watch what nervous people do with it. They guess. You've just handed over the element he was missing, and roadside admissions are admissible. There are ways a court can throw them out. Section 85, 90, 139. But Section 139 only bites once you're effectively a suspect. At an ordinary stop, what you volunteer goes straight in. So the wrong answer is any answer that starts with maybe. And the right one is one syllable. No. Just no. Now the fourth question, and this is where copying an American video will cost you your license. Had anything to drink tonight, mate? Refusing the preliminary breath test at the roadside in NSW carries up to $1,100. Refusing the breath analysis back at the truck carries up to 318 months in prison. Same as high-range drink driving. Refuse the test and you can end up worse off than if you had simply blown over. So comply. Blow into the thing, take the swab. Saying no, nothing doesn't stop the test. He can test you regardless because that is exactly what Schedule 3 is for. What the answer does change is what's on the record. An admission is admissible. Mobile drug testing screens for 4 illicit drugs. And Section 111 makes it an offence to drive with the drug present. Not impaired, present. Comply and say nothing. And which is when he asks the question that decides everything. You're right if I just have a quick look through the car? He's asking. Because there's a decent chance he can't do it unless you say yes, say no, and mean it. Under Section 36 of LEPRA, searching your vehicle needs suspicion on reasonable grounds. stolen goods, a dangerous article, drugs, something used in an offence. That's a real threshold with real teeth. Consent deletes that. In R versus Rondo, in 2001, the Court of Criminal Appeal looked at a young man in a damaged sports car that wasn't his, reaching toward the glove box, and held that it did not amount to reasonable suspicion. The search was unlawful. He was acquitted. Now watch what your consent does to all of that. Say yes, and there's nothing left for a court to review. No suspicion to test, no threshold to measure, no Rondo argument for anyone to run. You've done in 4 seconds what a magistrate would have made him work for. Refusing cannot be turned against you. In Street versus Bauer, the Supreme Court held that insisting on your rights and declining a search does not create reasonable grounds. 3 young men at 1 a.m. asserting their rights wasn't enough, so the wrong answer is the friendly one. Yeah, go for it. I've got nothing to hide. And the right words are 6. I don't consent to a search. Say it once, then stop talking. And if he searches anyway, do not physically stop him. An unlawful search can be excluded later under Section 138 of the Evidence Act, and obstructing him is its own charge tonight. Then, when it's all done and you're relaxing, comes the 6th one. Just one more thing before you go. This one arrives after the decision has already been made. He's chosen not to charge you, or he's already written it. Question 6 exists for one purpose: to reopen a conversation that had ended. Your guard is down, the adrenaline is draining, and that is exactly the moment people say the thing they spent 10 careful minutes not saying. Talk a lot, and it reads as nervous, over-explaining, story kept shifting. Say nothing, and it reads as evasive, uncooperative, wouldn't account for himself. The notebook gets filled either way. The only thing you control is who's holding the pen. In America, there's a doctrine that a stop can't be dragged out. Rodriguez, 2015. We don't have that. There's no Australian equivalent, no stop clock, no fixed limit on how long a lawful stop can run. Nothing ends this except him deciding it's over, or you asking. Queensland punishes a refusal as drink driving. Victoria, from March 2025, gave courts a discretion for medicinal cannabis patients. Tasmania has a statutory defence. NSW has neither. We're one chapter from the exact words now. Calmly once, and then you stop. Beam on your face. Licence in his hand. 6 questions on the table between you. You say this calmly once, and then you stop. Officer, here's my licence, and I'll take any test you want me to take. I'd rather not answer questions, and I don't consent to a search. Am I free to go? Again, slower. Officer, here's my licence, and I'll take any test you want me to take. I'd rather not answer questions, and I don't consent to a search. Am I free to go? To screenshot that. Say it out loud once tonight, sitting in your own car in the driveway, so it lives in your mouth instead of being something you assemble at a window in the rain. Now, why each piece is in there? Here's my licence, and I'll take any test you want me to take, is the concession. And it comes first for a reason. It hands over everything the law compels. Section 175 and Schedule 3 in one breath. You cannot be charged with refusing a test you've just agreed to. I'd rather not answer questions handles questions 1, 2, 3, and 6 in 5 words. It isn't refusal to cooperate. It's a preference stated once. And Section 89 means it costs you nothing. I don't consent to a search. Closes question 5. Consent door shut. The Rondo threshold left standing exactly where the law put it. And per Street versus Bauer, saying it can never become the suspicion he needs. And am I free to go is the only thing in this country that ends a stop, because nothing else does. Delivery matters as much as the words. Flat, polite, a little quieter than he is. You're not winning an argument, you're reading out a position. Be forgettable. Boring stops are short stops. And now he pushes, because that's the training. Mate, if you've got nothing to hide, why not just answer? You give the sentence back, unchanged, same flat tone. Officer, here's my license. Am I free to go? Second push, and it's sharper. You're making this a lot harder than it needs to be. You're not, and he knows you're not. Declining consent is not evidence of anything, and no court treats it as such. But it's designed to make you feel like you've done something wrong. Same words. That's 3 times you've heard them, which was the whole point. By the time you need them, they're muscle memory, not composition. Picture how this usually goes. Cones, rain, the beam. Where you headed? You give the sentence. He looks at you. Blow into this. You blow 0. Where have you come from? Same answer, officer. A pause, some decision happening behind his face. Then the license comes back through the window. Drive safe. Nothing in that was defiance. Just a bloke who did every single thing. But there's a fork past this point, and one arm of it is the tease I've owed you since the first minute. One question settles it. Officer, am I under arrest or am I free to go? If you're free, you go. Now, without a parting comment. If you're under arrest, this video ends and the lawyer begins. You say you want a lawyer and then you stop talking. And here's the tease, paid in full. Silence protects you at every one of the 6 questions. What silence never protects you from are the 4 musts, 4 refusals that are crimes. Refusing the breath analysis back at the truck or the station carries up to $3,300 and 18 months in prison for a first offence, with an automatic 3-year disqualification. Same as high-range drink driving. Refusing the saliva test, same architecture. Refusing to give your name and address or produce your licence, section 175. And refusing to nominate the driver once a section 177 demand is served, $2,200 in court. 3 edge cases worth carrying. The passenger, section 176, name and address. The swab, section 111, positive lab result. Being sober is not a defence, and in New South Wales, having a prescription is not a defence either. And 2 narrow limits, not at home and not more than 2 hours after driving. Don't build a plan around either. 2 people, never to become. The over-explainer who talks his way from a licence check into a search of his own boot. And the roadside lawyer who quotes Rondo at a man who's already found something. Put it together and the window goes up. The 6 questions, the 4 musts, the tests you can't refuse. I've put all of it in a book called Know Your Rights. Link in the description, waiting for the night you weren't expecting. Let's put it all together. Officer, here's my license. Am I free to go? 4 things you can't refuse. The stop, the license, the nomination, the test. The other 6 are yours. General information, not legal advice. Subscribe. Not for luck, for the next set of cones, so nobody you love talks their way into a search. But if that swab comes back positive, everything changes. That video's on screen now. Back at the window, the license comes back through the gap. The glass rises, rain beating on the outside of it. The torch beam slides off your face, down the wet paint and away, finding the next car back. Cones, taillights, and the highway opening up. You drive home.